Come to order, if you would, please. Vice Chairman Fisher, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Yes, sir. Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for our many blessings. Especially thank you for this county and state and nation in which we live. And we'd ask your blessing on all those that are serving to protect our freedoms in our military, our sheriff's department, those that serve us in fire and rescue. And we pray especially this evening for those suffering from the terrible tragedy in Manchester, England. Watch over them and comfort them. And Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance and direction with us tonight as we work on the business of our citizens here in Frederick County. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Supervisor Lofton, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Please stand, face your flag for a pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Adoption of the agenda. Are there any proposed changes?
No, sir.
All right. Entertain a motion for the agenda.
Move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All right, the agenda is adopted. Consent agenda. Tentative items are consent are tabs A, C, and D. How would the board like to handle this one?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Consent agenda items A, C, and D are approved. This is a portion of the meeting that the board sets aside time for citizen comments on any issue that is not subject to a public hearing on our agenda. Did anyone sign up?
Yes, sir. We have one individual, Chris Fordney, who'd like to talk about Frederick Heights Trail.
Mr. Fortney. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Chris Fordney, the Red Bud member of the Parks and Rec Commission. I'm speaking only for myself tonight and not for any other member of the commission or the department. Let me make a couple of comments about the proposal before you for a walking trail at the Frederick Heights Park off Sensing Road in the Red Bud District. The cost figure of $197,000 is an estimate, and it's my hope that the project, if approved by the board, would come in under that amount. I believe this trail is an appropriate and cost-effective use of profit funds that have been collected for Parks and Rec purposes. Because the county already owns the land, this money will go directly into a tangible recreational amenity for this area, and especially for neighborhoods that lack sidewalks or other convenient places to walk or run. Women, in particular, may find that this trail, which would be surrounded by houses, will offer them a better sense of security than trails through wooded areas. At present, this land represents little more than a taxpayer-maintained common area for the Frederick Heights neighborhood. The walking trail would put those maintenance dollars to better use for all the residents of the county, and for that reason, for the other reasons I have stated, I ask that you approve this important recreational amenity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. No one else? All right, we'll close the public comment portion. Board of Supervisors comments. Are there any? All right. That will bring us to county officials. Presentation of a resolution of appreciation. Chief Shiley, if you would join us up front, please, I'd appreciate it. It's a resolution of appreciation for Chief Henry Shiley, Middletown Volunteer Fire and Rescue Company. Whereas Henry Shiley has served the citizens of Middletown and Frederick County, Virginia for approximately 61 years as a member of Middletown Volunteer Fire and Rescue Company, beginning July 7th, 1955. And whereas Henry Shiley was elected fire chief, a position he has held since 1963. And whereas under his leadership, the company has evolved to meet the ever-changing demands of providing firefighting and emergency medical services. And whereas Chief Shiley is admired by his peers throughout the fire service due to his knowledge, strong and steady leadership, kindness, and humor. And whereas Chief Shiley is a tireless worker for the Middletown Volunteer Fire and Rescue Company, whether working behind the scenes, through the bingo program, carnivals, or dinners, or leading during moments of great responsibility and danger. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Frederick County Board of Supervisors extends its sincerest thanks to Chief Henry Shiley for his leadership, dedication, and strong sense of volunteerism, and wishes him all the best in his future endeavors. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread across the minutes of Frederick County Board of Supervisors for all citizens to reflect upon the accomplishments of this citizen volunteer. It was adopted the 22nd day of February, 2017. That will bring us to committee appointments. Social Services, I think we have an application.
We do. May I make the motion that we appoint Susan Brinkmeyer to the Social Services Board, please?
Heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Then Susan Brinkmeyer will be appointed to the Social Services Board, member at large. Board of Building Appeals, we're still waiting? Okay, apparently so. Historic Resources Advisory Board, Pekin.
Still waiting, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Nothing in May. Historic Resources Advisory Board in June for Gainsborough.
Mr. Chairman, I have a call into Mr. O'Neill, and I'm waiting for a response, so I'm
Thank
going
you,
to
sir.
have to delay it.
Okay. Planning Commission, Pekin.
Mr. Chairman, I have a call into Mr. Thomas and waiting for a return call.
Very good. Development Review, I believe we're still waiting for an answer back from Topper, Virginia.
We've actually heard back, and both
Okay.
members are willing to be reappointed.
All right, so how would the board like to handle these appointments?
I would make a motion for approval.
Approval, that would be Chris Tierney as a county administrative representative, Gary Lofton for the board and the EDA, Bill Ewing for the Board of Supervisors representative, H. Page Manuel for Planning Commission, Roger L. Thomas, Planning Commission, Seth Thatcher for School Board, Stephen Petler, and J.P. Carr from Topper, Virginia. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no? Good, that brings us to the end of the list. So, Human Resources Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The HR Committee met on May the 12th, 2017. We have two items that require action, or requesting action on tonight. Number one is HR policy revision for 8, work hours, holiday leave, section 8.3, paid time off. What this involves, real briefly, we're looking at trying to level the playing field for people transferring from the Social Services Department to a job within the county. Presently, if they transfer, they lose all their seniority for leave and so forth. So what this does is puts a transfer from social services to a county position on the same level as a county transfer within. And the committee recommends approval of it, and I so move.
Heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And a second. Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries. Supervisor
Sec-
Ewing?
The second item, Mr. Chairman, is a resolution of appreciation process. The committee is recommending that any employee that retires, full-time employee that retires with at least 25 years of continuous service be recognized by the Board of Supervisors and be presented with a resolution of appreciation with a retroactive date of January the 1st, 2017. This resolution will be presented in a public meeting to the retiree. The committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. That'll bring us to the Finance Committee report. Supervisor Slaughter?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee meeting was held on Wednesday, May 17th at 8 a.m. Items number 1, 3, and 10 were approved on consent agenda, and I would so move.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And the second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
Item number 2, the Department of Social Services requests an FY18 General Fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $148,624. This amount represents funds for 2 full-time family service specialists, no additional local funds required. The addition of the positions have been approved by the HR Committee and the Board of Supervisor. The committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
It's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second, is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
Item number 4, the sheriff requests a general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $500. This amount represents a donation for the purchase of a K-9 vest for the youngest K-9 in the sheriff's department, which is blue, and no local funds required. The donation came from the Orchard View Elementary School, and as I understand it, the students raised the funds for the vest for the K-9.
Nice.
So I would recommend approval.
It's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And a second. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
Item number 5, Frederick County Public Schools request a school operating fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $280,825.34. This amount represents grant funds for 2 preschool classrooms, no local funds required, and this was a federal grant. The committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
This motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr.
And
Chairman.
a second. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
Item number 6, the Northwestern Regional Adult Detention Center Superintendent requests a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $450,000. This amount represents funds for unanticipated inmate medical expenses and has been approved by the jail authority. The funds will be coming from fund balance of the jail, and the committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
This motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And a second. Is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
Item number 7, the Virginia Juvenile Court Administration requests a general fund budget transfer in the amount of $25,000. The amount represents unspent salaries to be used for client services. No additional local funds are required. And the transfer policy, of course, requires the Board of Supervisors' approval for transfers out of a salary line item. The committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
Item number 8, the Parks and Recreation Director requests an FY18 General Fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $197,000. This amount represents proffer funds to be used for the design and installation of parking and a trail at Frederick Heights Park. No additional local funds required. The funds will come from proffered funds. The committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Quick comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Supervisor Dunn.
We need parks in the eastern part of the county. It's an area that's growing, and I really hope that this passes. It's going to be a good addition to the county. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion, anyone? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
Okay, item number 11, the IT director requests a general fund budget transfer in the amount of $40,000. This amount represents unspent salaries to be used for maintenance support and to mitigate issues with the Active Directory. No additional local funds required. Transfer policy requires Board of Supervisors approval for transfers out of a salary line item. The committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
A motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And a second. Any discussion? Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
And let me back up to item number 9, which was a resolution and didn't entail dollars, so let me present that. The Parks and Recreation Director requests discussion on an Abrams Creek Trail resolution of support. The attached information was provided in your packets, and the committee recommended approval, and I would so move.
This is the motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Anyone? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
Item number 12, the IT Director requests an FY General Fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $56,000. This amount represents PEG funds to be used to update the presentation equipment in the Board of Supervisors meeting room. No additional local funds required. This item was forwarded from the Board of Supervisors IT Committee, and these funds are specific as to the use that they can have. It comes from the Comcast fees that are provided to the county and can only be specifically used for our public meeting place. The committee recommended approval, and I would so move.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any discussion? Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
And, Mr. Chairman, if I may, in our packets, I would like to recognize the Finance Committee. The Government Finance Officers Association has awarded the county the award for outstanding achievement for an outstanding achievement in the popular annual financial reporting for June 30th, 2016. This represents the 11th consecutive year that Frederick County has received this achievement award, and I think it speaks lots to the hard work that our Finance Committee provides and to the citizens and to our board. So I'd like to recognize all of their efforts in that behalf. And also, they received the award for the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the CAFR, and this is the 31st consecutive year that Frederick County has also received this award. And I just want to thank the Finance Committee or the Finance Department for all their hard work and making sure that we are providing outstanding work for the citizens of Frederick County. So thank you.
True excellence, yes. We're all appreciative.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, that'll bring us to a public hearing. Conditional use permit 0117 for Bowman Library, Shenandoah Mobile. Mr. Chair.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. This is, the address, excuse me, is at 871 Tasker Road in Stevens City. It's in the Shawnee Magisterial District. It's Zone RP, residential performance. Its current land use is a library. This proposed use is a 165-foot monotype commercial telecommunication facility to be located there. Just because we're still as you well are aware of, Mr. Chairman, we're still in the public hearing, so I'm kind of going to go backwards a little bit then forward if you let me. Just to give an idea where we're at with the Bowman Library, and also for the folks that are watching. The Board of Supervisors did hold a public hearing on this entire application at their April 12th meeting. At that meeting, the board tabled the application for 30 days to provide the applicant additional time to address citizens' comments. At this time, with the conditional use permit had to the board, with the conditions we have, these are assigned conditions that are still at that meeting that we are having the public hearing on, where all review agency comments will be complied with at all times. Number two, the tires should be provided and available for co-location of personal wireless service providers. Number three, a minor site plan should be approved by Frederick County. Number four, the tires should remain or should be removed by the applicant or the property owner within 12 months of abandonment of operation. Number five, all antennas will be flush mounted to the tower. Number six, the tower shall be painted or will be painted brown. Number seven, the tower will not be lighted. Number eight, in the event that a telecommunications tower is not erected within the 12 months of the approval of this conditional use permit, the CUP will be deemed invalid. And number nine, any expansion or change use will require a new conditional use permit. Furthermore, Mr. Chairman, there is going to be a waiver request that the applicant's asking for due to height regulations in that zoning district. Should the Board of Supervisors find a waiver to the required setbacks acceptable, a motion to recommend approval of a setback reduction of 43 feet to allow the tower to be 127 feet from identified property would be appropriate. Staff is seeking a decision from the Board of Supervisors on the setback waiver and the conditions assigned to the conditional use permit. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll try to answer any questions any board members that have that. And for the record, the applicant's here to answer any questions that you or any of the supervisors may have on this proposed conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions for Mr. Chair and anyone? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Applicants?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Ed Donahue, representing Chantel. Like Mr. Sharon, I'd like to take you back a little bit and sort of recap some of the things that have happened subsequent to the public hearing, also some of the design changes that were made. Also wanted to submit a couple things to the record. We've been busy. We got a petition together. The folks from the Chantel store got a petition together. We have over 350 names of folks that are in support of this particular facility. We have some speakers in support here tonight. I will let them introduce themselves. They can tell you what's on their mind. Chantel did an exhaustive search to try to find and meet a coverage gap in the area. Mr. Lynn Corner here at the earlier hearing took you through 11 sites that had been evaluated, and the only viable option is the county facility at Bowman Library. And Bowman Library is 16 acres. The county was willing to entertain the idea of a lease, so we were very excited about that. We originally had 195 feet and a full spread array at the top. We've reduced that to 165 feet. As Mr. Sharon said, we've agreed to do a flush mounted so the antennas are close to the sides of the pole and also painted brown. With Mr. Fisher's assistance, we have the lighting taken care of so that we're not going to be required to light the structure, which we think is wonderful. We identified more than 2,100 Sprint customers in the affected area. So we know that close to 2,200 Sprint customers. In addition, as I told you last time, Verizon Wireless has signed a letter of intent. So they're going to be a co-locator on the pole. Those are two of the four major wireless service providers in the area. Approximately 40% of the population would be covered by the two carriers. The coverage is so deficient. Chris Sarr was here to talk to you about it last time. The coverage is so deficient that calls are actually being dropped in the vicinity of Bowman Library. That's important for your residents. More than 50% of the U.S. population no longer has a landline. They rely exclusively on wireless. It's important for 911. It's important for business. It's important that Chantel address this coverage gap and satisfy the customers. We did meet with the neighbors. Dr. Sylvester was very kind and invited a couple of the supervisors. Mr. Wells and Mr. Fisher were there. We had good discussion, but we're not in agreement because, as I said, Chantel really does have to address this coverage problem. We do have the ability to further reduce the size of the compound. We have proposed a 70 by 70 compound. We feel we can probably take it down to a 40 by 40. I think that'll lessen the footprint. We also mentioned at the meeting, and I'll reiterate now for the public, Chantel has agreed to proffer $25,000 for site improvements to the library in hopes that that would help address some of the things like perhaps the shoreline or elsewhere. We know the library is a beautiful facility, but we also know that there's upkeep, maintenance, et cetera. We've been asked several times questions that are somewhat extraneous to the land use process, but title issue became quite a distraction. We satisfied that one. I provided copies of the NEPA report to the supervisors at the April meeting. I have a short version of it because Mr. Fisher gave me a hard time about all the trees I had killed by photocopying the NEPA report. It's voluminous. But what it's meant to do is address things like migratory birds and NEPA and SHPO issues. So we are in compliance with the federal law under NEPA and SHPO, and I'm going to give you a copy of the two-page summary. I just want to read one paragraph. Specific to the project, the consultants did it informal biological assessment. Through the IBA, we determined that it have no impact on the above listed items and the FCC in full compliance with FCC rules. Additionally, the design of the proposed facility meets the U.S. Fish and Wildlife recommended guidelines to minimize effects to migratory birds and protected bird species. US FWS recommends towers under 200 feet have no guide wires, no lights, et cetera. So we're in full compliance under the federal law. We do have an issue of visibility. You've seen the photographs. We know that some of the views from some of the homes, it will be visible. This is a line-of-sight technology. The tower's got to be up in the air. It's got to be able to see the customers. It's got to be able to transmit a signal. But we've done a tremendous job to bring down the height and reduce the footprint of the tower. And I think the painting will actually help an awful lot. And I know that the lack of lighting will certainly be a help. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I did bring the witnesses from Chantel from the first time. Chris Sarr, I mentioned, Lynn Corner, Jesse Wilmer is here as well. But I really just wanted to cover those points with you, and then I'll submit both the petition and the letter that I mentioned.
All right, sir. Questions for the applicant? Anyone? Anyone at all? Supervisor Fisher?
Just one quick question about the petition. I assume all those are Shawnee District residents?
So we went through and scrubbed the list carefully. In some cases, the address is a little bit inscrutable, but well over 100 of them are in your district. They're all county residents.
That's not my question. No, Shawnee District.
Did we scrub it for Shawnee? Lynn, why don't you come up?
Lynn Kerner with Chantel Site Acquisition. Mr. Fisher, in answer to your question, when we went through the list, we scrubbed it from the addresses that we could determine and make out the writing. And so they went from just to the south of, in Stevens City, in the area by the funeral parlor, down in that area, over towards the tower at Shalando, and then up into near the water tank, up in that area, and then a little bit over towards Highway 11. Basically, anything that would be affected by these towers, because this tower will offload other towers, which will help the signal in those other locations, and that's the purpose of the tower. It's in the center of 4 surrounding towers. And so we scrubbed, and that's where we came up with scrub, and I believe it was 103 names of those that we could distinguish the address.
Okay.
Further questions from the applicant? Anyone? All right, gentlemen, thank you. We'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting. Been assured that Dr. Sylvester will speak for a group, not necessarily everyone. So you'll come forward, sir.
I reside at 102 Lakeside Drive, Stevens City, Virginia. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, this esteemed board, and for all of you that came out this evening, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. I also want to thank Supervisor Fisher for spending the time with us in several meetings, private meetings, to discuss this issue. I want to thank Supervisor Wells. He was there on 2 of the meetings, and he didn't even have a dog in the fight, other than he does care about the county at large. And I want to thank Judith Slaughter for being at the planning meeting, and I can assure you she always did her homework. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit about petitions. We have 422 signatures that I've surrendered the rest of them. We've collected a couple hundred since the last time. Approximately 75% are Stephen City, Shawnee District based. We didn't do a scientific scrubbing. They're available for your review, but a lot of the people that contributed their time here, 5 or 6 people, and I could assure you that most of them, those signatures were drawn from Lakeside. I want to talk about corporate stewardship a little bit. You know, this Harrington Smith and Mr. Ken Fry and myself and my son, who was a little child at the time, stood before this board and talked to Mr. Stiles and to Frank Brumback concerning the commercial development of that track. We fought. Jonathan was 2 years old. I had him in my arms. My wife was out somewhere doing choir directing. She wasn't there that night. But we fought like dogs for that tract of land to prevent the commercial development. Harrington was called a socialist. I was called a communist. Anti-development Sylvester, they called me. But you know, when you take a look at that history and you go back and look, what did we get out of it? We got the Bowman Library. We got the Bowman Library out of that. And today, the developer and I are friends. We speak, we get along, and a lot of friendships came out of that process. I don't want our sacred lands, these are holy lands to us, these public lands, to be molested by for-profit enterprises. There's nothing wrong with the profit motive. I'm a student of the profit motive, written books on it. And there's nothing that I have no degradation about profit motive companies. But on our public lands, you know, where does it stop? If we allow them onto the Bowman track, where are they going to stop? They'll have a precedent, and they're going to screen precedent. And the next thing, they'll be making an application in some park somewhere that we have, or in some school that we have. And I think that's unfair to our citizens. Those parks were established and those recreational, and in Frederick County, I come from West Virginia. Frederick County, those parks are sacrosanct. They're hallowed grounds. And I'm asking you tonight to vote no for the proposal. And I'll mention Harrington. Harrington fought his living guts out to protect that tract of land. And I'm asking you all, it was originally set aside for recreational purposes, and I'm asking you all to oppose it. Now, to speak concerning the U.S. fisheries, I want to end by saying that the U.S. Fisheries Agency recommends, they don't require it, they recommend that you don't put a cell tower near a lake. And I don't think anybody here can deny that that lake is not a migratory lake. We sit on our deck every morning and we hear the geese come in and the ducks come in. And that is an ecosystem by itself that needs to be protected. I know it started out as a reservoir, but it's an ecosystem. It's got very, very high quality aquatic life in there. Turtles this far, this wide. And I read their Phase 1 report. They may have another addition to that Phase 1 report. I didn't see any mention of migratory waterfowl in it. Their page 9 of their SEC 10K report says they have to address that issue. I didn't see it in their Phase 1. Now, they may say, well, the engineer stood up there, the environmental engineer, and said, well, he didn't see any birds. And so that relieves them of that responsibility. And that may be true. It doesn't relieve them of the moral responsibility. Where they want to put, I've got to do this very delicately, where they want to put that tower, birds go there by the flocks, 4 or 5 acres of, they do their business there, for lack of a better word. And so to deny that that exists is just not, it's not, you can't absorb that. So I'm asking you for a rejection. I'll accept whatever this board does here tonight. And tomorrow I'm going to go fishing on the lake. So we appreciate your time. I appreciate you putting up with me and some of the things I've had to say. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak concerning this conditional use permit? Anyone? If you'd come forward, give us your name, magisterial district, and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Okay. My name is Carrie Jones. I live at 137 Little Wing Way in Stephen City. So I'm going to speak as a consumer, as well as the manager of the Sprint store on Loudon Street in Winchester, and we service a lot of the Stevens City residents there. As a consumer side, I've lived in Stevens City for the last 25 years. I have fished at the lake with my son when he was a child. I don't think I ever recalled seeing a goose or a duck go by there, but that's just my observation there being out there. I've walked the lake. I love the lake. It's a beautiful site. I took my children to the library there. It's a great library. A lot of renovations that the $25,000 Chantel is going to give could help other children enjoy the lake and the atmosphere, the setting there. On the other side of that, as a manager in the store and dealing with the community on a daily basis, we have multiple customers that come into that store every single day that are crying out to have more service, more capacity out there, because Stevens City is growing. What are we going to do when that development is done down at the end of 37? It's going to be even worse. I'm in a new subdivision now in Stevens City, and it's still growing. They're on phase 3. When we get all of these people coming into the community, the towers we have right now are not going to hold the capacity of the area. So there's nothing worse than having a customer come in because their only source of calling out is a cell phone, and they're telling you that they couldn't get out to 911 because there's no coverage in their area, and their father, mother, child is laying there in their arms and they can't make a phone call. That's a hard pill to swallow on a daily basis. So I ask you to please consider this for the benefit of the entire community for the small price of that land there. That's all.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Vogel, and I'm here today to implore you to deny the cell tower permit. Although some would say that the issue of having better service, that this permit would help consumers have better cell phone coverage. I have never had an issue with cell phone coverage, but I do have an issue with having to repeatedly stand up and defend a piece of property that I not only love, but have a deep respect for. I implore you, consider that the residents that you're in charge of, please consider denying this permit. The people do not want it. The people do not need it. We need you as our leaders to say no. We need you as our leaders to say we matter. We care about that land. We care about every aspect of this issue. And we're all here today, and for those that could not stand before you, who have signed the petitions as well, to have you deny this permit, please consider each and every one of those people. We don't need this cell tower there. We need to know that that land is protected. It is the people's land. It's not land to be used for profit. It's for the people to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jonathan Sylvester from the Shawnee District. I'd also like to thank Mr. Williams, Mr. Wells, Mr. Fisher. We did have a private meeting which they attended. At that meeting, we went over some of the legal aspects of the problem here. I'd also like to thank Mr. Donahue. I know he's probably about done with myself, probably more so with my father. But I would like to address some of his comments. His first comment was, this is the only viable option. This was not the only viable option. It's the only viable option now because it's the only piece of land that they don't need HOA or private party or private owner approval on. This is the county's land. They haven't even addressed the Lakeside Homeowners Association. I believe the president's here today, and there's been no discussion with them whatsoever. In the private meeting we had, we discussed some of the legal aspects that they presented to you the last time they were here. Basically, what the case law comes down on is whether there's substantial evidence or not that the board can deny the conditional use permit. In the case they cited to you, there was a conditional use permit that was approved. What was actually denied by the board, but then that was overturned by the Court of Appeals. In that particular case, it also cites 5 other cases where there is substantial evidence for a Board of Supervisors to disapprove a conditional use permit. We have exceeded those substantial evidence requirements with the 425 petition, the people speaking in opposition. Why that's important is because I want the board to know that they have the power to deny this permit. They have the power to deny this permit on aesthetics alone. That is supported by the case law. I submit to the board that this is a common sense argument. You don't put a 165-foot pole between a public library and a public wetland. It was already disapproved by the Wakeland Manor Homeowners Association. It's been disapproved by the adjoining landowner. And the Planning Commission unanimously voted not to put the tower there. The Planning Commission saw the common sense in denying the conditional use permit. I would hope the Board of Supervisors does as well.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Marta Garcia, and I live on 141 Blackburn's Ford Drive in Stevens City. And just want to say that I would like to have a tower in Stevens City. So I agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Chris Olson. I live at 7024 Valley Pike in Middletown, Virginia. I do plan on moving to Stevens City within the next several months, and I currently have issues whenever I use my cell phone up in that general vicinity, so I would like to see the service improved in that area. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
My name's Nicholas Sylvester of the Shawnee District, and I'll be real quick. As a kid, I used to camp and fish there, and my daughter's of the age where she can do that now, and I don't think I'll be having her camp next to a cell phone tower that's going to basically make the land less desirable for people to enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Sean Garner. I live at 131 Bellhaven Circle, and I would love to have a tower there. It's very difficult to make a call from my house, and I don't have a landline. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes. That's fine. That's fine.
Hi, I'm Tim Davis,
I'm Darlene.
and I feel that we're the most directly affected. We're directly across the road from it. We'll look at it every day for the rest of our lives. It'll be less than 250 feet away from our house, in direct line of sight from my front window, the window I look out every morning when I drink coffee. They've reduced the size of that compound at the bottom. Everybody talks about the tower and the slender. It's the stuff that's at the bottom that's ugly. You look at that, when you drive up and down the road, just look to the right and look to the left at all the cell tower compounds you see. You have that equipment. It's not quite covered by that fence they put around it. They stick a couple trees here and there. The fence turns gray, falls apart. Nobody does anything with it, and it becomes an eyesore. I think about property value. If I were looking at that same house now, and I saw that cell tower across there, I'd look for something else. It has to affect your property value. It affects the aesthetics of the house. And for those reasons, and everything else has been said, those are my main reasons. I'll have to look at it every day for the rest of my life. And we don't have a landline. I've never had a problem with my cell service, and she's never had a problem with hers.
One of the perks of getting older is that you have earned the right to sit and be reflective a little bit more. And I find myself doing that quite often. And the place that I choose to do that is on the couch, which is right in front of a great big picture window that gives me a full view of the lake. And over the last 27 years, when I sit there, I've got memories of my son, who is now a grown man, fishing. It became his sanctuary. He's now an environmentalist, and he would be appalled to know that a cell tower was going to go there. I've seen children walking on the lake when it was frozen, call the police to come and rescue them. I can hear the birds every morning. I've seen kids from high school walking across the field with their backpacks on their back going to the library. And I see mom and dads escorting their children across the field to go to the library. And when I think of that cell tower being there, now instead of reflecting, I'm wondering if I had a child, I don't think I would want my child walking across the field to go to the library. I wouldn't want my child playing there. And now I'm wondering how many of you would want that cell tower less than 300 feet from your house, which it will be for Tim and I. And I'm also wondering if my house went on the market tomorrow, how many of you would be standing in line to buy it? I'm asking you to say no to the cell tower. It's a beautiful property. It's a beautiful lake. And it was meant for children to play in and moms and dads to walk in and people to fish at the lake without the sight of that monstrosity. Thank you.
Thank you both. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Danielle Goodenough. I'm at 111 Timberlake Terrace, right around the corner from where the proposed tower services. I just want to say that I am in favor of this tower as it will help our community. There's quite a few buildings in that area that all have, I believe it's 12 apartments, and there's multiple buildings, so there's quite a large population there that would benefit from the tower.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. I'm Mike Roma. I live at 106 Lakewood Drive, Stevens City. I'm here tonight with my daughter, Madeline. And I simply want to say I oppose the cell tower.
Hello. I as well oppose the cell tower. As someone who has grown up here and lived in the area for about 20 years, I go to college now. I came down specifically to speak upon this issue. I can assure you there is wildlife there and is directly affected. Not only, this isn't just a piece of land to us, this is so much more than that. It's a community area for everyone to be able to, just as she was saying earlier, walk around and enjoy what it provides for everyone. It's more than just a piece of land. I've been on nature walks with my mom there. We have had so many memories stemming from that, and it provides so much more than just an area to place mechanisms in. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Maya White Sparks, and this is the third time I'm speaking in public against the cell tower because I care very much about this issue. I think, and I live at the village at Lakeside. I think that the board is well justified in saying no to Chantel's request. Chantel's needs do not outweigh the need of our community rights, and we have to draw the line somewhere. Also, the Planning Commission has unanimously denied Chantel's proposal. Large numbers of people have been showing up to meeting after meeting, Even though we came out for the meeting the last time, we weren't on the agenda, we're back here tonight because we care. And the cell tower violates the zoning integrity of public land in this recreational residential area. It violates the guidelines for the siting of cell towers near wetlands from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And I cannot believe that anyone would deny that there aren't geese on that land. Every time I go there lately, there's been geese. And I was so glad to hear people refer to the site as sacred, because for me, nature is sacred. And I was praying there in that beautiful field the other night, and 2 huge geese, gigantic, walked towards me instead of away from me. And I think we should all take that as a sign. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Deborah Sylvester. I'm the 4th member of this family. And I'm addressing you tonight because I would like to say that I also oppose the cell tower. I've lived at this spot at Lakeside 102 for 33 years. And if I'm recalling correctly, when we chose this area to live in, there were 3 reasons: the trees, the underground utilities, and the lake. And I just cannot imagine looking at that lake and seeing a 165-foot metal monstrosity every time I look at the lake. It's out of place there. It shouldn't be there. It's a natural oasis for that area, and we need to protect it. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Ken Burks. Jim Sylvester, he used to teach me in college. I've been at Sarando, I've been out there since 1975 on the corner of Shenandoah and Lakeside Drive. It's beautiful out there. Like they say, the geese, the birds fly around my house and whatever. The other day I saw a possum at my side door eating corn from where I put out for the cat. But I just want to say, my wife's not here today because she's got to go on an operation. But she wants me to tell you, please do not vote for this tower. I can imagine a picture of it. It's gonna ruin the whole part of Lakeside and Butternut Drive. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jason Wismer. I live at 104 Omni Court in Stevens City. I've spent the majority of my life in Stevens City and definitely have seen quite a bit of growth in the area. When I look at this project and exactly what Chantel's doing, I have a very differing view of a lot of comments made today about this being for profit. That this is Chantel's way of trying to make more money to expand, and where is this going to end? To me, this is about communication. This is about safety. And where I live in particular, the towers that are around me don't give me much support. I actually get very low signal strength there. Now, at my home, I don't have a landline. I don't think many people do. It's definitely a dying technology for use. And I have a 12-year-old son that goes to Ayler Middle School who comes home, and often he's by himself. And I've had cases more than once where he's tried to reach me and couldn't. So he had to go to a neighbor to try to get to a phone to get in touch with us. So more than anything, I do ask for the approval of this. I think that the area is needed. I think we don't have many choices in Stevens City to reach that same group of people otherwise. And With that being at the library, that may be that choice, but I think that Chantel's doing everything that they can to try to make this a more aesthetically pleasing with painting this brown. There's no lights. My wife asked me before I came out, she said, if this thing has lights, I don't want it. And I said, I understand. So it's something that I agree with as well. But I think for the benefit that you get out of what this tower is going to provide, I'm very much for it, for the safety of my family as well, and for that line of communication. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have to face this way. Hello, my name is Ruth Jimenez, and I live at 113 Collingsworth? Collington Court. Thank you. I am here and I am persistent that I am opposed to the cell phone tower. I understand your concerns, and I am a mother as well. And communication is vital for me, obviously. And yes, I depend on the service of cell phones for communication. However, I am also adamantly in support of the environmental concerns that the counter thought is on it. And my children are homeschooled, and we go to the library. We use that library often for education. And I do not want to see that cell tower there. I'm also very concerned about the health concerns that are noted from cell tower use as well. So please, I am asking you, please consider that when you make your decision tonight, that you will vote no on the cell tower. Thank you.
And hello again. My name is Dana Harmon, Dana Harmon Keith. My husband couldn't come here tonight because he's in surgery. But both of us are here. He's here with me in spirit. And we are both opposed to the cell phone tower. And this is because, and you can see that the two of us here, we're deaf. We use phones and FaceTime for signing all of the time. Also via interpreter relay service, it uses a lot of data to use video service all the time. So, and all of this is required for absolutely fast data to be clear. And also, I want to tell you, we've checked with all of these service providers, Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. And I choose Verizon. Verizon is clear. I can see signing. And I live at 206 Warbler Drive in Stevens City. It's very close to the library. I have no problems. I can see people signing clearly from my phone. Again, the both of us are deaf, and it's vital for us to have video communication. So I don't see a need for the tower. It's not communication is not an issue for us. And you've seen all the signatures, the petitions. Those are your people, and those are your hard facts. And compare the difference between the number of signatures that Chantel had. And I believe that you'll do the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Stoudemire?
My name is Dodie Stoudemire, and I live in the Shawnee District. I come before you again today to speak against the conditional use permit for Chantel Cell Tower. Briefly, I did go into the agenda packet to see what documents there were this time around, and what I saw was Chantel has been very busy. There's close to 300 pages of stuff that they've submitted to convince the county to approve this build. In addition to a lot of papers that make it appear that Chantel has reached out to anyone and everyone, I saw some beautiful photos that almost made me sympathize with the tower. The angle on many of the photos are a little bit misleading and make the distance from the residential area facing the library to be huge. Just as an aside, I stood in Mr. Davis's living room about 3 weeks ago for another issue, and I can tell you that his house is much closer than Chantel's photos would have you believe, and he does have quite a beautiful picture window that looks out onto what's going to be a very terrible view. And I sympathize with him because I'll have a similar view from my back deck in the townhomes that are close there, and I really do not want that. When it comes to the fact that there are some folks who are saying that their safety is involved because they're going to miss calls, there's no guarantee they're not going to miss calls with that tower, particularly since the tower is down in the dip. And the line of sight, usually they want to have it at the very highest point. So I really would like to ask the board to weigh whether they want to be baffled with the stuff or to do the right thing, which is to recognize that the residents of this community do not want that tower and to vote to deny this conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I am Kenneth Fry, 113 Mimosa Drive. I also own a vacant lot on Lakeside Drive. I can't really believe that the county would even consider putting a cell tower beside the library or in residential area. Next thing, I would like everybody here that opposes this cell tower to stand up. Thank you very much. I believe that gets the point across. That land is zoned residential. I can't see how you can put a piece of commercial equipment in a residential area. It just don't set in my head too good how it can be done. The radiation from that cell tower is supposed to go parallel to the ground, but what I've learned off the internet, it's just like squirting water out of a water hose. As soon as you squirt it, it starts scattering. It goes straight into the library, it'll go straight into the lake. If the lake gets radiation in it, the lake overflow drains down, goes down through Lakeside, joins the OPEC down at the Parkins Mill sewer plant. I do believe I read in the paper, Winchester Star, a few months ago, that the county was considering pumping a couple million gallons of water out of the OPEC and putting it back into the county water supply. This is not going to work. There's no filtration plant made or available that will filter out radiation. So you better think about this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Gokenhour?
I'm Patsy Gokenhour from the Redbud District, but I am in listening to all of this conversation and in passion for this, opposing this cell tower. I am going to claim my opinion is based on 50 years of being involved and having a great passion for public education, that this wireless communication destroys human beings' ability to communicate intelligently with other humans. and so like they've been able to in the past, to carry on a conversation, team solving of problems, a friendly conversation with your neighbor, and all of this is being lost in this handheld device with this tiny screen and its limited vocabulary. Reading is a cognitive process. It's not what you get from the page, it's what you bring to the page to interact with the page. Therefore, students must have a wealth of background and experiences that I've been hearing about from these beautiful people behind me in order to comprehend what they are encountering, and they need time in order to do so. They are trying to survive in this fast-paced world. They need time to think, explore, dream, experiment. I don't care how fast you can get information, but if you do not have prior knowledge about the assignment that you've been given, what shows up on the screen will make little sense. This creates doubt, confusion, and stress. And as adults, we should be looking for ways to increase the joy of living and learning, not add to the problem. How ironic it is that this tower is desiring to be built on Bowman Library property, a place with its wonderful books, hands-on experiences, areas to communicate with discussion and enlightening conversations, or just the pure enjoyment of companionship. Therefore, I am asking that you not approve the conditional use permit to build this telecommunication tower. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Well, Leo Smith, and I've lived in Frederick County most of my life, and they're very close to the Bowman Library. And I'd just like to remind everybody that Chantel presents themselves like this is the only place that they can provide for their customers. And I see that originally they wanted it up on top of the water tower on Tasker. There's several other commercial businesses up there that they could approach. There's a whole bunch of businesses on the other side of 81, and I just think it's a dollar situation here, $25,000 to the Bowman Library versus what they're going to have to pay some commercial business to let them put their tower on a commercial property is greatly different dollar amount. And so I just ask you to not approve this, and thank you all for serving and your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name's Mike Stoudemire, Gene Fisherman representative. I sit on the back of my deck about 4 in the morning because I've got to be at work at 6. Over by the lake, I hear the owls hollering to the other owls in the woods. And something y'all really want to consider also, we're talking about fencing around the tower and everything. I'm on board of directors over there, and we have trouble with teenagers tearing up. Who's going to ensure that they won't tear up that fencing and get on the tower and somebody gets hurt? The library is beautiful. Y'all have done a wonderful job in supporting the library, and I really think the Frederick County people will support the library without that $25,000. I appreciate you all serving us, and I thank you all for reading me.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone? Last call. All right, we'll close the public hearing. We appreciate your comments. Gentlemen, would you like to respond to any of the comments you've heard?
Mr. Chairman, Ed Donahue on behalf of Chantel. Very briefly, you've heard impassioned comments. You also heard a good deal about RF emissions, and I'm just going to remind the board that under the federal law, that's not in your purview. We are in full compliance with all applicable FCC, OSHA, et cetera, guidelines with respect to RF emissions. It simply can't be part of the deliberation. The other comments are heartfelt. I understand it. But we've looked at the migratory birds issues, and we've eliminated that as an issue through the NEPA process. We looked at visibility. We looked at alternate sites. You can debate about where we think should be on the other side of I-81, but we looked at 11 sites within the area and went through an exhaustive search. with your help, we can do something at the library that'll help provide wireless service for the 911, for the residents, and for the commercial uses in and around Stevens City. The need is there, and it's going to be there until someone can find a way to get a site in there that we can get wireless coverage. It's really as simple as that. If there are things we could do to further address the compound, we can certainly do that. I mentioned that we can reduce the size of it. We can landscape it thoroughly so that you won't see anything but the trees around the compound. We've done what we can on the height, and we've done what we can on the lighting and the painting of the tower, which you heard about earlier. But that's really all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, I believe this is Shawnee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I just want to say this has been a protracted process. And I just want to tell everyone I appreciate the civility with which everybody has conducted themselves. I think you all could give somebody 60 miles that way a lesson how to get along with each other. But I thank you for that. Mr. Chairman and board members, I hope you'll bear with me because this is going to take a little time. But I am proposing a motion, and this is the resolution I am proposing. It is to deny conditional use permit application number 01-17 of Shenandoah Mobile LLC for a telecommunications tower facility and the request of Shenandoah Mobile LLC for a setback waiver on property located at 871 Tasker Road, tax parcel number 75B-A-1 in the Shawnee Magisterial District. Whereas on February 3rd, 2017, Shenandoah Mobile LLC submitted conditional use permit application number 01-17 requesting approval of a conditional use permit pursuant to Frederick County Code 165-204.19 for a telecommunications tower facility on property located at 871 Tasker Road, tax parcel number 75B-A-1 in the Shawnee Magisterial District, and whereas the Frederick County Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on the application on March 1, 2017, and whereas the Frederick County Planning Commission recommended denial of the application on March 1st, 2017 on a 9-to-1 vote, and whereas the Board of Supervisors conducted a public hearing on the application on April 12, 2017, continued to May 24, 2017, and whereas the property and the properties adjacent to the property are in the Residential Performance RP zoning district, and with the exception of the Bowman Library facility itself, which serves as a local cultural center for the community, the property and the properties adjacent to the property are used for predominantly residential purposes or are vacant. And whereas the Board of Supervisors finds the requested use of the property for a telecommunications tower is not in conformance with the comprehensive plan for the following reasons. With respect to the county's residential area, the plan encourages the inclusion of open space amenities, active, passive, and natural, located in close proximity to all dwellings, with an emphasis on the provision of usable open space for residential use and enjoyment. And second, the property and the surrounding area are located within the area encompassed by the Southern Frederick Area Plan component of the comprehensive plan, and the Southern Frederick Area Plan shows the property as being planned for residential uses. And the Southern Frederick Area Plan also identifies recreational uses on and in the immediate vicinity of the property, including along Lakeside Drive and around the lake located behind the Bowman Library. And the simulations presented by the applicant of the proposed telecommunications tower facility reveal that the proposed site provides little, if any, screening for the proposed telecommunication tower facility, thereby leaving unobstructed and unsightly views of that facility from several different vantage points. And the comprehensive plan identifies the area in which the property is located to remain residential in character. And the applicant's statement regarding conformance with the comprehensive plan is particularly weak and unconvincing, as the applicant acknowledges that telecommunications facilities are not specifically addressed in the comprehensive plan, but asserts that it is, quote, feels that this proposed facility is in accordance with the design principles of the urban area, unquote, none of which are identified by the applicant. The applicant goes on to assert, in essence, that the proposed facility is in conformance with the plan simply because many residents live in the area of the proposed facility, and that, quote, future growth is anticipated, unquote. The board does not agree with the applicant's vague rationale, which is intended to, but does not support its attempt to conclude that the proposed facility is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, and the Frederick County Planning Commission has not approved the telecommunications tower facility under the provisions of Virginia Code 15.2-2232A, and the comprehensive plan does not support the establishment of a 165-foot tall communications tower on the property. And whereas, although commercial telecommunications facilities are permitted by conditional use permit in the RP district, such permission is expressly conditioned by Code 165-204.19 of the Frederick County Code zoning ordinance on the proviso that pursuant to 15.2-2232A of the Virginia Code, the general location or approximate location, character, and extent of such facilities must be substantially in accord with the adopted comprehensive plan or part thereof, and the board finds that the applicant has failed to establish compliance with the foregoing provisions, and the board further finds that the general location or approximate location, character, and the extent of the telecommunications tower facility proposed in the application is not substantially in accordance with the adopted comprehensive plan or part thereof. And whereas, although commercial telecommunications tower facilities may be permitted with the approval of a conditional use permit in the RP district, such permission is also expressly conditioned by Section 165-204.19 of the Frederick County zoning ordinance, which provides that adjoining properties, surrounding residential properties, and scenic areas cannot be negatively impacted by the proposed facility. And the board finds that adjoining properties, surrounding residential properties, and scenic areas would be negatively impacted by the proposed telecommunications tower facility based on the height of the proposed tower facility and the lack of adequate screening. And whereas the Bowman Library serves as a local cultural center for the community and the requested use would be inconsistent with that function. And whereas the height of the proposed telecommunications tower, 165 feet, is significantly greater than every structure in the immediate vicinity, and therefore the proposed telecommunications tower facility incompatible with and out of scale with the height of all the existing structures in the immediate vicinity of the proposed tower. And whereas the telecommunications tower facility requested by the applicant is proposed to set back 127 feet from the property line, while said facility is required by the applicable provisions of the Frederick County zoning ordinance to set back at least 170 feet from the property line, and where the applicant has requested a waiver of 43 feet from the setback requirement to allow it to reduce the required setback from 170 feet to 127 feet from the northern property line. And whereas, while the board may approve a setback waiver such as the waiver requested by the applicant from the northern property line, it is under no obligation to approve any such waiver. Whereas, under circumstances presented in the application regarding the proposed establishment of a 165-foot telecommunications tower facility on the Bowman Library site in a predominantly residential area with little, if any, screening of the proposed facility, the board should deny the foregoing setback waiver requested by the applicant. And whereas, based on the applicant's failure to secure approval of the foregoing setback waiver, the application would not comply with the requirements of the Frederick County zoning ordinance. And whereas the property is located in an environmentally significant area containing scenic landscapes, scenic features, and habitat for various wildlife, and the requested use would be incompatible with and would negatively impact the area by detracting from the general viewshed of the area, especially in view of the height of the proposed facility and the lack of adequate screening of that facility. Now therefore be it resolved that the Frederick County Board of Supervisors does hereby deny the applicant's setback waiver request for the proposed telecommunications tower facility. And be it further resolved that based on the foregoing grounds, the Frederick County Board of Supervisors does hereby deny the application pursuant to Frederick County Code, paragraph 165-204.19, for a 165-foot tall telecommunications tower facility on property located at 871 Tasker Road, tax parcel number 75B-A-1 in the Shawnee Magisterial District.
All right, that was a mouthful.
More than that.
So you've heard the motion to adopt the resolution to deny both the CUP and the waiver setback request. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
And a second. Discussion. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Supervisor Wells.
I was involved in this process from the very beginning. Had many meetings with the folks, and I just want you to know what my intent was. And that was that when this issue was brought up, I clearly stated, and Chantel was there, that if the people of Frederick County, you folks sitting out there, and live in that area, if you needed this tower and you desired to have this tower, then I was more than willing to listen to that and see what we could do to help you out. I certainly have had a lot of telephone calls and a lot of folks here tonight who have said, don't want the tower, don't need the tower. I haven't had one supporting person other than the folks that were here tonight, and I understand your situation. I'm a cell phone user myself. At one time I had 3, so I could be in communication in every area I was in. So anyway, it's just difficult. I remember when there weren't cell phones, so you had to holler. But anyway, that being said, I just wanted the folks to know, I think Chantel's done a good job of presenting to you folks. If you wanted it, here's the best way we could do it. On the other hand, you said, even if you do the best, it's just something we don't want in our area, and we don't need in our area. So I feel that I can vote against this motion, or vote for this motion, excuse me.
Any other discussion? Anyone? Anyone? We ready to vote? Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing? Aye. Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. The waiver and the CUP are rejected. That will bring us to ordinance amendment, Frederick County Code, Chapter 165. Did it go to sleep?
James' fault.
Go ahead, Mr. Vine.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors. I'm here this evening before you with the first of 2 public hearings regarding ordinance amendments. This one is this is a proposed amendment to Chapter 165 of the zoning ordinance to allow additional by right and conditional uses in the RA Rural Areas District. This is an effort that seeks to expand and to clarify the opportunities available for small businesses and agritourism in our rural areas. This effort is supportive of the goals and strategies expressed in the 2035 Comprehensive Plan for the county's rural areas and for agribusiness development. Staff has drafted an amendment to the RA zoning district to codify additional permitted uses, including agritourism, commercial stables and equestrian facilities, cut-your-own-tree farms, and on-premise wayside stands, and to include additional conditional uses such as farm stays, special event facilities, commercial archery ranges, ice cream parlors, bakeries, and craft and gift shops. Staff has also drafted supplementary use regulations that would apply to the special event centers, and as well as new definitions for the new uses. The Development Review and Regulations Committee discussed this amendment at their January and February 2017 meetings, and the DRRC agreed with the proposed changes. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this item on May the 3rd, and there were no public comments. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the ordinance amendment. Following a public hearing this evening, staff is seeking a decision from the Board of Supervisors on this proposed ordinance amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Klein?
Mr. Chairman,
Anyone? Yes, sir. Supervisor Fisher.
there are several equine facilities I've noticed around where they have trail rides. Does that mean that these places now are going to have to, if this would go through, would be passed, they'll have to get a conditional use permit?
No, sir. That would, equestrian facilities will be added as a permitted use, as they're already allowed under the definition of agriculture. This just codifies it so that if people wanted to establish a commercial stable operation where they would rent out stalls, they would have the right to do that on their property without requiring a new conditional use permit. They wouldn't require any conditional use permit.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions, Mr. Klein? Anyone? All right. How would the board like to handle this one?
Public hearing.
Public hearing, Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
sorry. I'll get ahead of myself. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to comment concerning these proposed amendments? Anyone? All right, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing portion. How would the board like to handle this one?
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of an ordinance amendment for permitted and conditional uses in the RA zoning district.
A motion to approve the amendments. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
A second. Is there any discussion? Anyone? All right. Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher. Aye. If you left out, I'm sorry.
I'm not gone yet, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Fisher.
Aye.
Supervisor Loftus.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. That will bring us to second set of ordinance amendments. Mr. Klein.
Again, this is your second public hearing on a proposed ordinance amendment, and this is a proposed amendment to Chapter 165 of the zoning ordinance to reduce the front setback for accessory structures in the RA Rural Areas District. Staff, at the request of the chairman of the Development Review and Regulations Committee, has drafted an amendment to the RA zoning district to reduce the required setback for accessory uses and structures where adjacent to private rights-of-way from 60 feet to 45 feet. On screen to your left is a graphic of how the current ordinance is applied. Currently, accessory structures and principal structures are required to be set back 60 feet from public rights-of-way and also 60 feet from private rights-of-way. The proposed ordinance amendment would maintain that you would still need to maintain a 60-foot setback for accessory structures and principal structures from the public right-of-way, but would reduce the front setback for accessory structures where it is adjacent to a private right-of-way from 60 feet to 45 feet. This effort seeks to provide flexibility for property owners to locate accessory structures on their property closer to the right-of-way where the frontage is along a private right-of-way. The Development Review and Regulations Committee discussed this amendment at their February meeting, and the DRC agreed with the proposed changes. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this item on May the 3rd, and there were no public comments. The Planning Commission recommended approval. Following a public hearing this evening, staff is seeking a recommendation from the Board of Supervisors on this proposed ordinance amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Klein?
The 45-foot setback, that's only for a private road condition?
Correct. The 45-foot setback would only apply to accessory structures and uses on private rights-of-way.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Supervisor Loftus.
Private rights-of-way and the setbacks from them, are they in any way controlled by any homeowners association policies?
Oh, good question.
We wouldn't get in, the short answer is no, but those matters are resolved privately. We don't get into enforcing any kind of HOA covenants if there were any, but typically there would not be in the rural areas.
Okay, I just wondered about any potential conflicts between their ordinance and an HOA policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
HOA policy, strictly a civil matter. Yes, sir. Supervisor Dunn.
If there are two property owners adjacent to each other, how does this affect property owner B if property owner A is what you have on the screen?
Like if they were on either side of the property?
Either
they-
side, you have front
They
and
would
back.
they would both still need to meet the 60-foot setback for their principal dwelling unit. That is not changing. And they would each be allowed to get as close as 45 feet for a detached accessory structure, such as a garage or an outbuilding or something to that extent.
Thank you.
Other questions, Mr. Klein? Anyone? Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to comment concerning these proposed amendments? Yes, sir.
Alan Morrison from Gainsborough. I would just like to thank Mr. Klein for the very simple and clear diagrams he presented that removed so much of it. That made what was going on so much clearer, and I do appreciate his efforts to provide those graphics.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to comment? Anyone at all? And we'll close the public comment portion. How would the board like to handle this one?
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of an ordinance amending the Frederick County Code, Chapter 165 zoning, agriculture and residential districts, Part 401, or a rural areas district, 165, 401.07 setback requirements as presented.
Motion to adopt the amendments. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Anyone? Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Ewing?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. Will bring us to board liaison reports. Are there any? Anyone? All right, citizen comments. It's a portion of the meetings we set aside for citizens to comment on any issue whatsoever. Would anyone like to comment? Ms. Gokenauer. All right.
Good evening. I am from the Patsy Gokenauer from the Red Bud District, and I just wanted to make this known to my elected officials that I value my vote. And in September 1955, when I turned 21, I had to register to vote. I wanted to register to vote, and I had to read and write and pledge to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And I had to pay a $2 poll tax. And I've lived off the north side of Cincinnati Road for 54 years, which was a Shawnee district, but when they formed the Red Bud District. And so being on the north side, I was involved then with the Red Bud District. And if my memory serves me well, I have not missed in voting in every presidential election since I've had the privilege to vote. And I have continued to vote through the years in the local and state elections. And being a resident voter in the Red Bud Magisterial District of Frederick County, I wanted to vote in the FCR mass meeting being held on May the 22nd to elect the Republican nominee for the Red Bud District and for a member of the Board of Supervisors. And so I had the form, and I am the undersigned, being a registered voter, and I needed to bring my identification to that, hereby register to participate and being held and to select a Republican nominee for each of the offices, and one being for the Red Bud District. And the Red Bud District had 2 candidates. And so I wanted to go and vote for one of the 2. And so I filled this in, and then I printed what they said. But what I did was that there was a pledge, and that I marked through that, and that I wrote, I am here to vote for a Republican nominee. But then, when I went in to register, then the two ladies at the table were questioned whether or not I could, had questions about this. So what I did, they called over a supervisor, and to that, he said that I had to sign the pledge to vote, and even if my candidate did not win, I would have to vote for the other one. So anyway, with all of this said, I said I just want to vote for this one. This one time, I just want to vote so that I would have a say in the selection of a delegate, for the district. He said I could not vote unless I signed the pledge. And so to that I said, you mean I have to leave? And he said, yes. And are you good with that? And I said, no, I am not good with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments they'd like to share with the board? All right. Board of Supervisors comments. Are there any?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Dunn.
I'll make this brief. In respect to the comments that we just heard, I do think that, and I know it's not necessarily a local issue, but voting is important. I do think that there should have been a primary. There were 5,000 people that voted for a Republican candidate for president and a Republican congressman in the last election. And there were less than 200 people that voted in the Republican mass meeting. So to allow more people to vote, I would have favored a primary. Sometime down the road, I think I'd favor some type of a registration so people can choose what party they want to join. But letting people have the opportunity to vote, the more the better, I think serves the county and everyone. Thank you.
Any other comments? Anyone? Vice Chairman Fisher.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank everyone for their comments. We'll stand adjourned.